We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI, 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and on the internet on knookmedia.com, serving Richmond, Oakland, and the San Francisco Bay Area. Our guest by phone, an old friend of the program, the Regional Director for the National Right to Life and the Director and Founder of Life Fest, Brian Johnston. So, Brian, let's shift gears a little bit back to what we were talking about earlier. Something you had mentioned about the pro-life issue. When we're talking about Obama, one thing that I keep on thinking when it comes to this issue is when he was in the legislature in Illinois, didn't he vote for a third trimester abortion bill?
Oh, yeah. What's worse, the Born Alive Act.
Yes.
In other words, if a baby is born alive in the process of the abortion, what was happening is that the abortionist took the position, well, my job is to kill this kid, even though the kid's been born alive. And that bill came up in the Illinois Senate. It had one vote in favor of it, Barack Hussein Obama. And part of it is he was being obedient to Planned Parenthood, who did not want that bill to pass. So we are looking at really in one person, probably the most powerful person on earth, literally. Glad Putin doesn't think so, but in terms of the office of the president, let me put it that way, the office of the president has the authority to do many things. Unfortunately, the things that he's done internationally have been somewhat questionable. The things that he's done domestically are not just questionable, they have been, if you will, I think, damnable in terms of the effect on our culture here in the United States. And clearly his commitment to unlimited abortion and now Obamacare. Another time I want to do a show with you guys on Obamacare. I know you know the insurance industry. You know what a curse it is to the American people and the freedoms we've had. But Obamacare and this president have been the devoted enemy of a culture of life.
I think that would be great to do a show with you on Obamacare. I want to get into something else. It's one of the things I do in my spare time is I teach for a local university here, and I taught a class last night, the opening night, on a class on critical thinking. And at the end of the class, I had a lot of the students. I could see the wheels turning, as I got them, as I was tweaking their thinking, and it reminded me of something that I firmly believe. I firmly believe a lot of what's going on politically is only because people aren't really that well educated. If you presented the issue to them, like the abortion issue, like the healthcare issue, and so many issues, if they really saw the facts and could weigh them, I think they would be a lot more conservative than they give themselves credit for, because it's a logical position, and it's also a position that I think if you look at people's roots, it's firmly entrenched in our roots. But people are ignorant of the issues, and that's why they take the positions they take.
And they could have been an abortion themselves.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah.
You guys, that's exactly right. We're on the side of reality. When we're talking about the right, we're just describing reality. Reality has been twisted by these cultural values that we talked about earlier. Just quickly, I'll tell you, just to illustrate for folks, cultural coercion is very powerful, and we ourselves surrender to it routinely. Mm-hmm. I had a guy yesterday. I'm in Sacramento. You guys were in Sacramento just last week. There's a culture here. There's a kid I met, very passionate kid, wants to be involved in politics, and he came down to the Capitol, and really energetic kid. Nobody told him then what I needed to tell him. To me, it was odd he didn't get it. He said, if you want to work in the Capitol, Tim, you got to wear a tie. He came to the Capitol in a T-shirt. and I have to know because he's just a casual kid. He's this young, passionate kid. I said, no, look, he wanted to get a job at the Capitol. I said, hey, you got to wear a tie here.
Unless it's the Clinton administration.
That's a cultural issue that no one spoke to him about. I was the only person that gave him the courtesy to wake him up to it. Most people, they come into a culture. So when you're in a culture, you start adhering to those cultural values subconsciously if you want to be accepted. And just wearing a tie, 21st century ceremonial attire, is part of what happens in the Capitol building. But our whole culture has values that are unspoken. Now, when you say, oh, it's just about choice, I could say that to him. I say, hey, Tim, wearing a tie or not, that's your choice. This is all about choice, Tim. No, if you're going to be accepted is really the issue. If you're going to get where you want to go, you're going to do this thing. It's the culture telling you got to wear that tie. And that's what's happening to girls right now in the U.S. Just up 99 from Bakersfield in Merced, Planned Parenthood has its new building that shares the property line with Merced High School.
Oh, wow.
There is a cultural coercion going on with young women that if they should get pregnant, first there's a cultural coercion saying, hey, getting pregnant is pretty cool. You don't have to be married. So there's a cultural issue there we can talk about another time. But the cultural coercion to just exercise your choice is so strong, is so powerful, and we've talked about what choice is. It's abortion for any reason or no reason in particular. That's what choice is. But to wake people up, as you pointed out, people need to realize this, and Clay, good point, we all could have been aborted. It's very simple and straightforward if you think it through. But one thing that even the left is upset about is going on in China and in India, and that is the intentional targeting of girls. The intentional targeting of girls and killing them in the womb. And it's happening on a humongous scale. In China, it's become law. Okay, you can decide which gender you're going to kill, but they prefer, as a culture, they prefer having a firstborn son. So it's girls that are being killed. In India, they're not forcing them from the government. It's a cultural value that is engendering this gender side. And so we have the left. We have Jimmy Carter, as I mentioned earlier, Jimmy Carter on the Letterman show condemning abortion for gender side. Even Secretary of State Hillary Clinton condemned this at the Women's Conference. And Christian Bale, I don't exactly know where Christian Bale's politics are, but Christian Bale last year, and again, this was in the news, kind of hidden away, he was filming in China. He heard about a lawyer that was under house arrest for resisting the gender-side abortion laws in China. Christian Bale drove 1,200 miles with his handlers in the taxi. So he wanted to meet this guy. The handlers had called the police. Christian Bale went up. He just wanted to shake the guy's hand because he was standing against gendercide in China. The police beat up Christian Bale. This is in the news. You can look it up. Google it. You can find that. So people of all political spectrums, you don't have to be a Republican. You don't have to be a pro-lifer even to say, you know what, I just don't want you using abortion to kill little girls. I thought you were a feminist.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Aren't you a feminist? Come on.
Yeah, that's crazy. We're having a conversation with Brian Johnston from the National Right to Life. Brian, talking about the sex abortion, there's a bill that one of our favorite legislators is sponsoring. Talk about that.
Yes, AB 2336. Shannon Grove is carrying this bill. And again, there's 5 states that have already made this law. People don't realize that here in California, because of what's happening in India, it's been restricted late term. Gendercide has been restricted. People don't know that. But you know what Indian women do? They get on the airplane and they fly to California. Because California has a culture that embraces all abortion for any reason or no reason. More to the point, they will actually pay for it for free. California, the state of California, gives out free abortions to non-citizens. So that's happening here in our state.
Yeah, see, that's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. You know, the other bill I want to talk real quick, and I'm not too sure if this has got to the bill stage, but you'd know more about this than I would. We had your cohort from the Right to Life League here in Bakersfield on, and she was talking about a bill they're trying to get through that would force a sonogram to be shown before an abortion is performed. And I think that's, you know, if you're really looking at freedom of choice, wouldn't that give women the choice to actually see what they're aborting?
Oh, I agree 100%. We've been working on that with them. One of the dynamics, I'm not sure where that's really a cool bill, and that bill has been used in other states. One of the ironies, though, is that because of the way, again, we have to talk about just Sacramento sometime. People may not realize the Speaker of the Assembly, Tony Atkins, her only real world experience before going into politics, she ran an abortion clinic. People don't know that.
Well, she
That's
could have
our
been,
new speaker. The
she
most
could have been a
powerful
community
legislator.
organizer.
No law becomes law unless she lets it go.
Brian?
Yeah.
She could have been a community organizer.
Well, that's exactly what she was and is. That's what politics is about, apparently. And so that's the only experience you need.
I want to ask you a question about abortion,
Yeah,
or an item regarding abortion. Why not allow the night after pill, which would eliminate the need for an abortion later?
Well, there's, that's a whole, we do a program just on that. One of the questions when you talk about a pill is there's many different types of pills. Some pills are actually contraceptives in nature, and that's what you're referring to. And contraception is an issue, a legal issue that another court case had established long before the Griswold decision back in the 60s. There's a difference between contraception and abortion, and that's the point you're making. But you want to be careful about what kind of pill, because a lot of people don't understand the details. There are pills that are specifically abortifacient in nature, and that it would be like RU-46. What you call the night after, the morning after pill, that's actually a gray area that, again, anything that is actually truly just contraceptive, that's all it does, and it doesn't kill a human life. Well, we're not involved in that. Again, that was the Griswold decision back in the 60s. It was the Roe versus Wade decision that went beyond that and said, you know what, we don't care about contraceptives. You're going out and killing a human being because you know it's a human being. That's when we crossed the line. That's when literally the right to life was suspended, is when you intentionally go in and say, I know this is a human being. I want this human being dead.
Brian, unfortunately, I got to leave it at that. We're coming to the end. Brian, we got to have you back on. It's always a pleasure. And for Life Fest, which we highly recommend, May 8th to the 11th, lifefilmfest.com. Brian, thank you so much for the time. There's never enough time when it's you, my friend.
Always a pleasure, you guys. You do a great job.
We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.